Donald Trump's pick to lead the Department of Defense, a Fox and Friends weekend anchor named Pete Hegseth, was once barred from participating in the 2020 inauguration of Joe Biden because the security forces believed that he had been compromised and that he was a right-wing Christian nationalist extremist, including with tattoos on his body that represent that, and they didn't want him anywhere near the inauguration. Mom Michael Popok, you're on. I'm like gobsmacked by that. You're on Legal AF for just this type of information and analysis. Hit the free subscribe button. We now need you more than ever. I want to explore Pete Hegseth. I've done hot takes about his multiple marriages and cheating and his marriage that also culminated in a sex assault charge in California in 2017. Now I want to focus on his religious and spiritual beliefs and his fundamentalism, not because I'm against Christians. I am not. I believe in the Christian Judeo ethic ultimately, but I don't follow the right-wing, far-right teachings of Christian nationalists or Christian Zionists, another word for it, or Reconstructionists, who have as the base of their belief system, which Hegseth subscribes to, that there should be a male-dominated brotherhood leadership structure, that the biblical law should be imposed on everyone in their day-to-day life. This explains a lot of his thinking. Now look, on his bicep and on his chest, he has two tattoos of the Crusade period, the Crusaders period, which is used by right-wing, alt-right Christian nationalists to signal that they're part of that movement. He has on his right bicep, Deus Vult, which means God wills it. And then he's got a Jerusalem cross from the Crusades on his chest. I'm not going to begrudge a man his ink or his tats, but this demonstrates where he's at mentally and emotionally. He feels that his godfather is a right-wing Christian nationalist named Doug Wilson, who's the godfather of Reconstructionism. And their goal in life, which is consistent with Project 2025, which is to install the church, the mountain of the church, and have it be one with this country, a theocracy established on earth in the United States, is Pete Hegseth's goal. Now, I'm going to do separate hot takes about the other aspects of Donald Trump's national security team that makes us all terribly insecure. But let's just think about what it means to have somebody who believes that the apocalypse is a good thing, that creating the apocalypse will create back in Israel, right, on the Temple Mount. This is their teachings, not mine. The reestablishment of the temple on the Temple Mount, currently occupied by one of the most revered mosques in the Muslim religion. It sits on top of the Western Wall in Israel. I've, of course, visited the Western Wall, not the Temple Mount, but the Christian right, the Christian Zionists want there to be an apocalypse, the coming days, where the believers go to heaven and the rest go to hell, and we have reestablishment in Israel of God's heaven on earth. That's going on in Pete Hegseth's mind and is tattooed on his body. Now, if that doesn't concern you, think about the Department of Defense Secretary. That person controls 2.7 million people, active and non-active, 1.3 million active soldiers, right? He has a budget of $850 billion. We have four major superpowers or powers that are arrayed against the United States as I'm recording this hot take: Iran, Russia, China, North Korea. They could, in any combination, decide to attack America, causing World War III. And Donald Trump's answer for that is a guy who is not even qualified enough to sit during the week on the anchor desk at Fox, but he's on Fox and Friends weekend. And his regular gig is that he is the Anderson Cooper for Fox News on New Year's Eve for the ball drop, hosting their New Year's party. And this is the guy that's going to avert World War III? when in his mind, he doesn't want to avert World War III. As part of his apocalyptic plan as a Christian alt-right nationalist, he wants to cause the apocalypse. You see where this is going? Now, this doesn't concern Donald Trump, who's not, how do I put this nicely, not a man of God. Let's just put it that way. Now, you've heard coming out of his pie hole, out of Hegseth's pie hole, things like diversity, equity, inclusion, and woke shit are, this is his words, are going to be immediately removed from the Department of Defense when he's there. He's going to reinstate the transgender ban. He's going to take away reimbursement for military women to get abortions and travel to places to get abortions, right? He's going to lead a purge board made up of former military who are going to try to pick off 3- and 4-star generals that aren't loyal enough to Donald Trump. One of his other jobs, by the way, is as Department of Defense Secretary, God help us, is to coordinate other places of hotspots around the world. Like Lloyd Austin, while I'm talking right now, is coordinating aid to Ukraine among 50 different countries. There is nothing in Pete Hegseth's background in hair and makeup on Fox for 14 years on the weekend edition of their show, like the 4th hour of the Today Show. It would be like the Democrats nominating Coda Hotby, who just or Jenna Bush to be the Department of Defense Secretary. Wouldn't you feel less secure than yesterday? And this is the guy who has no leadership abilities, who has nothing in his background that suggests that he can run a large organization, who's only had to run the Pete Hegseth Incorporated world for the last 14 years and run around trying to look cute in tight suits. This is the guy that's going to get 2.7 million people reporting to him in a command structure, an $850 billion budget, and he's the one that's going to keep us out of war with the new axis of evil and World War III to boot. Is this the right moment in time to put an inexperienced Fox weekend anchor in as one of the point people in your national security apparatus, Donald Trump, just so you can troll the American people? The scariest thing is when I dove in to all the reporting that's going on now about the Christian right movement that he is a part of, and he's part of the most extreme movement of it and its tenets. When I read about the brotherhood, right? The reinstalling church and God's heaven on earth, the need for an apocalypse and the days in order, the saints are coming home, and reestablishment of the Temple Mount. This is a guy we want with his finger hovering over the nuclear button. And just to tell you the importance of having adults, of having sane people around Donald Trump as guardrails, Mark Esper, who was the defense secretary for Donald Trump, testified and wrote in his book that Donald Trump wanted to shoot First Amendment protesters in Lafayette Park, the park behind the White House, if it wasn't for Esper talking him out of it. Who is going to talk Donald Trump out of shooting innocent Americans on American soil when Pete Hegseth is the Department of Defense Secretary? I'll do a separate hot take about Tulsi Gabbard, who's been nominated with no experience, and everyone in the national intelligence community believing her to be a security risk and a Russian asset. I'll do a separate hot take on her. Russia TV just speculated that she must be a Russian asset. So this is our national security team that's going to keep us out of World War III? I mean, you would think that Putin was picking the cabinet. In fact, Putin couldn't pick a better cabinet for Putin than what Donald Trump is currently doing to the American people and making them so insecure. Just what I want. a crazed person who believes in a right-wing Christian ideology to reestablish heaven on earth and needs an apocalypse to do it, to be in charge of keeping us out of World War III. Pete Hegseth's got to get pulled as a cabinet pick here. This is no joke. I know that Donald Trump thinks it is. He thinks this is about middle finger and trolling. He thinks he's going to show he's all powerful, but we have our national security interests at heart. Everyone in the national intelligence community, the national security community, the national defense community is arrayed against Pete Hegseth, and for very good reason. The fact that I started this hot take with somebody who's been nominated by a future president to be the head of the Department of Defense just 4 years ago was banned from the Biden inauguration because they saw him as a security risk because they couldn't clear and vet him properly because of his ties to the Christian alt-right and movement. Houston, we got a problem. We got a problem. I'm going to continue to cover it right here. For every one of these rodeo clowns. No, that's too jocular to call them a rodeo clown, right? Or what I've said earlier, that Donald Trump is dealing out of a deck where it's just all jokers for his cabinet picks. I don't want to make light of it. I want to be morally, ethically, politically outraged that my constitutional Republican democracy is being not only shit on by Trump and the people around him and the Project 2025 Federalist and Heritage Society people, but he is hollowing out our security, making us less secure today than we were yesterday, emboldening our enemies, drawing us closer to World War III than yesterday. If we had, and we should have this, some public interest group should set up a doomsday clock of how close we are to World War III. And we are at least 2 ticks closer to midnight on that clock as a result of picks like Pete Hegseth and Tulsi Gabbard and Matt Gaetz to be in charge of security and law enforcement inside the country and military operations outside the country. I'll continue to follow it all. Take a moment. You want to hear more of this information? You want to do the analysis with me and be here for it? Where Legal AF sits at the intersection of law and politics. It is the most important thoroughfare in our democracy right now. I need you here for it. Hit the free subscribe button and find out what 50 million people a month already know, which is Legal AF is the home of law and politics analysis and commentary like no other. Legal AF, the podcast on the Midas Touch Network. Everything else, Legal AF, right here on this new YouTube channel. Until my next report, I'm Michael Popok. In collaboration with the Midas Touch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories at the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.